So welcome to Perusall 102, the final chapter. It's the final countdown. You didn't need that. But I needed it. So welcome to Perusall 102. So this is our course home for our current course that we are in, that I'll be using to reference a lot of things today. So the very first thing that we want to talk about, we already know how to get our students to join. As a quick review, if this is a Perusall standalone course, meaning that you went directly to perusall.com and clicked create a course, then you'll have that code here, right here at the top, that you then give to your students as we did today. If you created the course through your LMS, then you'll remember that the students will not need to create a Perusall account because they will already be enrolled when they click the links in your course. We'll review that a little bit later when we talk about LMS integration. LMS, for everyone's information, is learning management system, such as Canvas, Sakai, Schoology, Blackboard, all of those. All right, so the first topic that we want to focus on today is advanced scoring. So what we're about to put in the chat is actually a document that shows all of how scoring works in Perusall, and it looks like this. So it's a PDF that you can download and you can use on your own time too, if you'd like. And it even has information it has an example right here at the bottom with numbers. Kyle, who is here with us today, he did the work on this. He did a lot of work on this document. So if you have questions, they might be answered here, but we will start to talk about them together now. So scoring. Before I even show you how scoring is broken down, I want to show you that you can turn it on or off. So if you did not know, Perusall has an algorithm that can grade in 4 languages, and those languages are available here. So if you see annotation language right here under settings, general, you can choose what language, either English, Spanish, French, or Dutch, what language to grade your annotations in. Next, you can also choose whether or not to use Perusall's automatic grading. If you would like to not use Perusall's automatic grading, then you would go here and you would say never. Hide the gradebook and disable Perusall scoring. But if you would like to use our scoring, you can choose any of the other 3 options. And with that in mind, let's talk about how scoring works. Scoring in Perusall. So scoring in Perusall, you go to settings, scoring, and you're presented with this page. At the very top is the link that Kyle just sent you, or that someone just sent you. It might have been Nolan too. I'm not looking at the chat right now. But this is how all of 6 of the scoring components within Perusall are set up. So at the very top, we know that we have a live graph that interacts with how we change the weight down here. Now, if you noticed, full credit was moving back and forth as I did this. That's because if I chose to make annotation content score target 100%, that means that a student could essentially get a 100 on a Perusall assignment just by doing the annotations. Now, Perusall doesn't give extra credit, but Perusall gives many avenues to reaching full credit. So say a student doesn't do well in one of the targets, if you have extra over here on the other side of full credit, these are other opportunities for that student to get credit that could possibly lead up to full credit. Great. So now let's look at what's actually in here. So annotation content score. This is our course, as I said, so it's only made for us. It's not made for anyone else. And so I wanted to, because we are all instructors or admin or staff or faculty within an institution, I didn't want to give you a lot of work. So annotations to grade, I made 2. Depending upon your discipline, you may, and the content that you're using, you may want more or you may want less. So I started with 2. So now we have relative point values for each quality level. These are rated at a low, a medium, and a high value for the annotations that students leave. If they leave a low quality, then they will receive a 0. A middle or medium quality, a 1, a high quality of 2 in this case. Also in the chat, there should be a link that shows you an example of how Perusall's algorithm graded how annotation quality was defined. So now, if we look at this, a lot of instructors have asked, well, I don't care the level of the annotation. I just want to make sure that they're doing annotations. So then what you would do is just make this number, make all 3 of these the same number. That way, you don't have to worry about a high, medium, or low because they will all be graded in as that same level. But for our purposes today, I will keep it like this. Then we have the post-deadline reply window and the late annotation period. So if these are enabled, then you have added an extension to your original due date. Okay, what does that mean, Justin? Well, the post-deadline reply window allows students to respond to existing comments and questions for full credit for this long after the deadline. So let's say that a student, say that our deadline is today at midnight or 11:59 p.m. Okay, so now students have 1 week after today to get in, to respond to existing comments and get full credit for those responses. Now we have the late annotation period. This is in effect at the same time. So that 1 week, during that 1 week, students are also able to get partial credit for this long after the deadline. So what that means is that you've just added 2 weeks, because when this period is over, they have an additional week to get the work done. So let's say that again in clearer terms. The post-deadline reply window and the late annotation period work together. They stack on top of each other. So if you have 2 weeks here, then you've added 2 weeks to the final deadline, final, even though scores decline over time, but the final deadline is 2 weeks from your original deadline. Great. Now, let's talk about these last 2 points in annotation, and then I'll check if there are any quick questions before we move to the other targets. So these last 2 points, students cannot earn more credit for annotations after the deadline than they earned before it. If this is enabled, what this means is that this is my favorite little thing to say. So if little Johnny did his work and little Johnny before the deadline received a 1 on his annotations, then once the deadline, the original deadline has come, any work that little Johnny does, even if it's 2 value, even if it's like worth 2 points, the highest score on each one that he submits is going to be a 1. So if this is not enabled, little Johnny has the potential to get 2s, even if they're late. But what this means altogether is that it just gives them the ability to possibly still get full credit, even though the score will still be declining. And last but not least, we have maximum penalty for responses that are not distributed evenly throughout the content. So if you want to ensure that your students are not putting all of their comments in the first page of a 20-page article, then you might want to increase your penalty, right? This is just making sure that they spread it throughout the document, not just in one spot. Are there any questions before I go into the other components?
We have no questions right now, Justin. We had one asking just to make sure to just explain the difference between reading and active reading, but I know you're going to do that. So.
Oh yes, we're about to get into it, right? It's after this next component. Thank you for that. So now we have the opening assignment target. So, and we also have the increment below. So the opening assignment target is simply that, giving students credit for opening the assignment. So right now I have it set at 20% of full credit, gives them that. The opening target is set at that. So down here in the increment is how many times they have to open it in order to get that full 20%. So I only wanted my students to open it twice in order to get full credit. So half of 100% is 50%. So all you have to do is open these assignments twice in order to get that full credit for opening the assignment in this course. Now we have the reading target and the active reading target. So the reading target is simply the distance that a student reads through the document. It's starting at the very top and scrolling all the way to the very bottom of the entire assignment. So it's not really checking their active reading, which I'm about to tell you about. It's really more of a distance thing, right? Completion, getting start to end. Also, they have to be on each page for about 2 seconds, I believe, for the algorithm to actually count it. Next up, we have the active reading target. The active reading target gives credit for each minute that the students spend actively engaging with the assignment. See, that's very different. What this does is it actually grades on like they're clicking, they're highlighting, they're scrolling, they're typing and leaving comments, all of the actual activity that they do within the assignment. So you also have your increment for that down here. And as it says, it doesn't say here, but this is judged every 2 minutes. It's about every 2 minutes. And I'm going to show you later how to actually check the actual active reading target time. Not the grade, but the time. So now we've got getting responses target. So this gives credit for writing comments and questions that elicit responses from other students. So if you want to give students credit for being able to start a conversation, then you would go here and you might increase the getting responses target. And then you can also increase your increment. With this increment, it goes up each time one of the students' comments elicits a response from another student before the deadline. And then we have the last but not least, the upvoting target. The upvoting target in Perusall is basically like Facebook's like button. So this gives credit for writing comments and questions that are upvoted by other students. Or additionally, it also gives credit for upvoting other students' comments. So this is a great way to hinder students from saying the same thing. Instead, they can say, oh, you said that, that is a good point. I upvote that idea. So you can give students more credit for receiving upvotes or for giving upvotes. And those are both calculated into your upvoting target. Once you've decided all of that information, you then click Save Changes. Are there any questions about this aspect of scoring before I show 2 more things related to scoring?
Hi, Justin. We do have one question. If the relative point values is set to 1, 1, 1, does this automatically set the number of annotations to grade to 1?
No, it does not. So great question. So the relative point values for each quality level, right? This is just talking about for annotations, right? So if these are a low, medium, and high, if I change all of these to 1, then no matter how long the comment was, no matter how dense or not dense the comment was, then it will receive a score of 1. That annotation itself will receive a score of 1. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and enable that to show you what that looks like in a moment. What I'm going to do, yeah, okay, it should be saved. Yeah, I saved it. Great. So now what I can do, I'm going to show you a quick difference in this. let me go to the assignment. I'm going to just pick a random assignment here that we have. I am going to look at the comments that were given. And I can, well, this is an instructor comment. I need a student comment. Give me a sec. Well, actually, while we're here, I'll show this to you. I'll be able to show this to you in a moment. But if everyone could go in, if you have a moment, leave an annotation. See what that's like. Highlight, use the highlight tool, and leave an annotation anywhere. There we go. So, thank you. And look at that. I can see that you're all here. Another great feature that Perusall has. Okay, so go in, leave some comments, and I'll show you that in a moment. While you're doing that, so yes, to finish up that question, again, that only applies to the annotations to that specific to each specific annotation. You can still set the number of annotations that are required. You can change that to higher or lower, right? You can change it to as many as you'd like. This is just the value of each one. And then Perusall adds those up and sees how that goes in terms of the annotation content component. So thank you for that question. Are there any more questions before we go into the advanced area?
Yes, so, I was unmuted the whole time, so you heard me typing. My apologies, Justin, sorry, I was helping someone who reached out an email. We do have a few questions of, do you have some values you recommend people start with to get a feel for how it all works in regards to scoring?
Oh, that's a good question. Will you ask it one more time? So good, I need it twice.
Some values. So what I'm thinking is like the percentage setups you recommend people to start with to get a feel for how it all works.
Great question. Thank you so much. Okay, so Perusall actually has two presets that you can use. If your course is if you would only like to judge to score on annotation content, then you would just click this button, annotation content only. As you see, this went to completely 100% for annotation, full credit, and everything else is zeroed out. Then we have the holistic recommended, which it uses all of the components. Once you click that, you see everything else goes to a different section. Yep. The only thing that I would recommend checking here is checking your increments, right? Because at this point, this means that the student, for opening the assignment, they would have to open it like 20 times just to get this full credit. So like just check your increments to see a little bit more about that. Also, one more recommendation that we have is to check the Perusall blog, which is at perusall.com/blog, which actually has posts. Let me show you what it looks like. Specifically about, it has posts specifically about scoring. See, Perusall scoring options, annotation only. Here's a whole article on why you might use this versus the other. So as you see, it gives you plenty of information, and it also gives you tips on a lot of tips. Great resource. Check it out. Okay. Any other questions? I can take one more before we move on.
Yes. Do students see both faculty/student upvotes and their names, as well as do students see each other's upvotes?
So students, that is a great question. So let's look at it together. So I talked about an upvote, but I didn't show you what it actually looks like. So as you see here on the panel on the right, I'm looking in this assignment, I'm looking at the document. I clicked all conversations. And now the things that are in bold are comments that I have not read yet. So now what I can do is I can click on this. I can see the score that was given. And as we talked about earlier, you got 1 point, right? Because we made all of them the same. So you received 1 point for that score. On here on the right, I can say this was a helpful comment and click upvote. You see that it was upvoted by an instructor. But now as students, you can also go upvote this comment. So everyone go in and you see, click on an upvote and upvote on one of these and you'll see what it looks like. Yes, I'm not actually sure though, if it shows that it's been upvoted by everyone else. No one, do you know? Or Kyle?
It only shows if it's upvoted by an instructor with that kind of flavor text at the top. If a student upvotes, the students aren't made aware of that. It shows the counter on the left-hand side. And so that's the only differentiating thing. We do have another question that I was actually typing the answer to, but it would be easier to say right now. It was asked from the same person, Paula. She just wants to know if there's a way for faculty to upvote without necessarily giving the students credit for faculty upvoting. And at this time, Paula, this isn't possible. The only way to do that would be to go into the scoring settings and change the parameters for upvoting to not allow students to be rewarded for receiving upvotes. That would be the best solution to that. It wouldn't necessarily fit all your needs, but it would be a way to do that. But I will pass this along to our founders, as that's a great feature request to have instructor upvotes that don't carry any weight to them.
I agree with that. I agree. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so the last 2 points that I wanted to share with you about scoring, well, they're more of how to find them, which will be a little bit helpful later. As you see here, I went to all comments and I clicked show comment scores. So you want to see where those scores appear. If you click on these while we're inside the assignment, you can actually see the scores displayed right here. They also appear in the grade book. As you see, we have our grade book here. And one more place that they appear is right here on the outside of the assignment. If you click all comments, then you will see all of the comments displayed here, and you can filter this by group, you can filter it by student, you can filter it by instructors, and this information is downloadable in a spreadsheet as well, or a document. So that is something important to know about scoring and how scoring works. One last thing to share about how scoring works is that you don't have to use the same scoring technique on every assignment. These first 2 assignments here have the course settings, but when you create an assignment, if you click scoring at the top, you can specify custom scoring settings for each assignment. For this assignment specifically, I only wanted to have the students get credit for opening the assignment and for reading, getting all the way to the end. So all that a student has to do to receive full credit on this assignment is to open it 2 times and scroll all the way from the top to the bottom. So that's that answer. And if you go in and do that, I see one person's here already. All you have to do is go all the way to the bottom. But remember, stay on each page for about 2 seconds. And then that will appear in the grade book as full credit. Look at that. Great job. Great job. All right. So that is how scoring works in a nutshell. The very last thing about it that I wanted to show you is just the score range. Remember that when you are creating your assignments, you want to know what is the lowest possible score that a student can earn and the highest possible that they can earn on an assignment. This is very important, especially when you're working with your LMS, because you want to make sure that the total value of points that they can get is the same number here in order for the grades to pass over smoothly. If you run into any issues about that, then just email us at support@perusall.com. Another quick tip, if you're looking to reach us and don't want to go to your email, just click the help button up here and it will route you to our help center. So just quick tips to help you. All right, so now let's talk about grouping. No more questions about, we're moving on. All right, grouping. So there are 2 ways to do grouping, 2 ways of setting up grouping within Perusall. Round 1, level 1, I'll call, is automatic grouping. So Keynote to remember, you can write this down somewhere for your personal notes. Grouping in Perusall is associated with the library rather than assignments. Grouping applies to the documents, not the assignments. Why is that? It just means that Perusall, with grouping, students can see everything that an instructor writes, and they can see what the other people in their group write, but they can't see everyone. They can't see everyone. The guy can only see who's in their group, and they can see what the instructor writes. Now, what if you want to put everyone in the same group? Well, then you would just make sure that your enrollment estimate and your target group size are the same number. If you're changing something, you'll notice here that this pop-up comes up. If you would like to change all of the documents that you have, then you would just click this, retroactively change groups on all existing items in the library. So if you want to change everything that already exists, you would go in and do this. And then you would click Save Changes. Then to check to make sure it works, which I promise you it probably did. I have faith in the system. You click Course Home, Library, and then click on the assignment. Then you'll see the group. I'm sorry. Oh, I used the wrong word. Click on the document. Click on the document. And you will see here. Then you can click Groups icon, and you'll see that everyone is now in the same group. But Justin, what if I want people to be in groups of 2? Well, then what you would do is go to Settings, Grouping, and I would make sure that my enrollment size, we have 12 people in this course. So I'm going to change this number to about 14 because I want it to be a little bit bigger. And I want them to be in groups of 2. So I'll just change my target group size here. Remember, I don't want this to be on every assignment, so I won't click this. Instead, I'll read these instructions that say navigate to the item in the library and select groups, reshuffle groups, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So I'm going to put it in groups of 2, save changes, go back to my library, find my document, click groups, and then click reshuffle groups. It's going to ask me to confirm. Once I do that, everyone is then shuffled into 2 groups. Great. So you can also download that report. If the grouping is not to how you would like, right? Maybe you're like, oh, these 2 students don't work well together. Might move someone manually, which you can do. As long as you have enough students there. So if it won't let you move it, just make sure that your numbers are all correct. And that will help you with that. So that is automatic grouping. That's just automatic grouping. Now let's talk about manual grouping. So automatic grouping, I always suggest automatic grouping. Well, I usually suggest automatic grouping for courses that want to have different groups with every assignment, with every document. You can do, right, it randomizes it, and you can still clean it up to how you would like it. You can still sort it to how you would like. But if you want the same groups for every assignment, for every document throughout the course, then you might use manual grouping. So if you choose to use manual grouping, again, these will be the same throughout every document throughout the course. Then once your students are in the course, once they're loaded in, they'll appear here. One way of adding in when they would, where they would be is to manually put the numbers in. So I might say 2, 3, then group 5, group 4. I'm just going through the process right now to show you what it looks like. And group 3. Okay, so once you put those numbers in, you can then organize it by group, or you can organize it by name, right? So this is for a course where students are they've already loaded in, but say you want to import your course, you want to import your groups. Well, then what you would do is you would click import. You would then download our template spreadsheet, which has 3 columns on it. Do not remove any columns. Simply input your information into it, then save it, then select that file and upload it to your account. We've gotten a lot of questions about this, especially from instructors that are working with an LMS. They say, I imported it, but it all disappeared. What do I do now? What that means is that Perusall stored that information. So now as your students launch from your LMS, they will come into the groups as long as they have the same information that you sent in. They will be launched into the appropriate groups and that information will be displayed here. If you are using manual groups, when you go to the library and select a document, you will not see the groups icon. If you are using manual groups, you will not see the groups icon because all of the groups are the same and that information is displayed under settings grouping. All that information will be there, okay? We do give you the option to use grouping with Canvas. The way it works in simple is that you can use one set of groups from Canvas and send them over. Instructions for that are on our how do groups work and then Canvas pages on our support page. So unfortunately, Canvas is the only option right now. We are working with our other LMSs to hopefully get that soon, their grouping ability. But for now, Canvas is the only one. With others, right, like I said, you can import it. Just download it and then import it. Okay, are there any questions on grouping before we move forward? Because I'm about to wrap up.
No questions on grouping right now. Justin, you're doing great.
Thank you. All right, so the very last thing I'm gonna mention before Nolan takes over is LMS integration. So I know a lot of us work with LMSs. As we said, those are learning management systems such as Sakai, Canvas, Blackboard, Schoology, Desire to Learn, Brightspace, all of those. So we have integration pages. The general page looks like this and should be in the chat very soon. This is an overview of LMS integration. The very first thing that you're going to want to get from us is your key and secret. Every institution has its own key and secret. You're going to want to get that from us so that you can then launch Perusall from your LMS. When you launch Perusall through your LMS, when you've done it correctly, it will launch you to a new shell of a course. What do I mean? I mean a blank course that you'll then input your information. When you are using your LMS and setting up your gradebook sync, all of that information is here that you need to know. We also then have it divided into all of our different LMSs that we currently have pages for. As an update, we are currently updating these. I know Kyle and Maggie from the team have been working on this diligently, but here's just evidence that we are keeping up. D2L, Desire to Learn, has a new version and an old version. This is the page for the new version. If you want the old version, just click here. See, look, we've got it all. So just look around on our knowledge base pages to see information about that. Great. All right. So that is all I have to say for now about LMS integration. So yeah, if you have specific questions about your LMS, then please email us at support@perusall.com and we can give you more information. So at this point, what I want you to do is continue to leave some annotations as Nolan and I switch, just so that you get more comfortable with how it works. All right. All right, Nolan, whenever you are ready, you can pop on and talk about those things that were voted on.
We had a quick question.
Oh, yes.
Oh, Kyle's got it. All right, never mind. All right, so judging from the poll, looks like everyone really wants to take a look at peer review assignments, which sounds fantastic. We will start with that. Let me get that all situated here. And we're going to jump in. I'm going to go ahead and grab the screen. let's do some peer review. All right, everyone. So looks like 9 out of 10 people who filled out the poll wanted to know about creating a peer review assignment. And so this is a great way to utilize some of the cool features in Perusall. And so the first thing that you're going to want to start out doing when creating a peer review assignment is you're going to need to create a student upload folder. And to do that, you're going to navigate in your course to your library tab. And then when you're within your library tab, you have an option down here called the student upload folder. You're going to select this folder, give it an appropriate title. Usually instructors like to go with the assignment name or which draft that their students will be uploading to have their peers review. Give a little description, and then you'll notice that the box is already selected for you to allow students to upload documents to the folder. Now, as of right now, the only type of document that a student can upload to Perusall is a PDF. We are working on getting other pieces of material able for students to be able to upload, but right now, only students can upload a PDF. So it'd be good to make them aware of that. Once you have this folder created and ready, you'll notice it'll appear here in your library with this little blue icon indicating that students can upload to the folder. Now, once your students, all of them have uploaded all their material into the student upload folder, now it's time to create the peer review assignment from this folder. And to do that, you go into your assignments and you come over here, and instead of clicking add assignment, you click the drop down arrow here and you go to add a differentiated assignment. And now here, what you're going to be able to do is create this peer review assignment, and it will appear in your gradebook as a single gradebook column. And so this is a great way to assign these multiple pieces of material, but only have it be one assignment in your gradebook. And so from the folder, or from this drop-down menu, you'll select the folder that you've just created, the one with your students' material in it. And you'll notice when you click into the folder, all of the material will upload here. And now you, the instructor, will be able to go through and assign the students you want to each piece of material. And now you have a couple of options here that you can do. You can either, what a lot of our instructors will do is they will do blind peer reviews. And so what I mean by this is that they will assign multiple students to each piece of material, but they won't assign the author of the material. This takes a little bit of pressure off the students. They know that the author is not necessarily going to see their critique. And it allows the instructor also to have a little bit more control over, which annotations may be constructive, which ones would be most beneficial to the student who authored the work. And they can sort through that accordingly and then download those annotations and provide them to their student who wrote the piece of material. And so this would be the option to do that. You would do it completely blind, have your students go in and work on the material, and then review the annotations and provide them to the author outside of the Perusall peer review assignment. The other option will be to actually assign the student who authored the material to their own work. This creates kind of a live peer review. That way the student can see, all right, this is what my peers think. These are the changes I should implement. They see them live. There's no filtering process whatsoever. And the student is kind of along for the ride, so to speak. And now the cool thing about a peer review assignment is it operates in the same fashion that any other grouped assignment in Perusall works, in that each group of students here assigned to this material are private to that material. So no one in any other group will be able to see what annotations were left on Tino the Tortoise or Introduction to Perusall unless they're within that group. So that's why we say, you have those two options. You can either put the author in with their own work, or you can keep them out and they won't be able to see it until you distribute those annotations yourself. And so that's the basic setup of a peer review assignment. Aside from that, everything else moving forward is exactly the same. You're going to set up all the similar options that you would for any other Perusall assignment. be it the assignment name, any special instructions you may have. So a lot of instructors, when doing peer review assignments, like to detail here to give guidelines to, this is your best bet for how to create a constructive peer review, or these are, the guidelines to maintain a positive critique, or things like that is often what we find in here. And then, all the other options are uniform to any other assignment. And then finally, scoring. Kind of the same thing that Justin went over earlier. You can do the overall scoring settings that you've established for the course, or custom ones for a peer review assignment, which the majority of instructors that create peer review assignments go with this custom ones, because they'll put a lot more emphasis on the annotation score target and change the minimum number of annotations to grade. So these definitely come into play more, which is why we see more instructors leaning with this setting than the overarching ones. And then usually tweaking these accordingly to suit that. So definitely something to keep in mind. And that's a peer review assignment in Perusall. That's one of our up-level features, and a neat little trick to be able to use. We see it utilized in all disciplines, and our instructors really enjoy having this at their fingertips to be able to use in this platform. So it's a cool thing to have in your toolbox. You can also, instead of going through as I did and assigning individual students, you can actually randomize the assignments as well. So if we click this button here, you'll notice that all students were randomized into each document. That's another option at your disposal, as well as if you are utilizing manual groups, you can assign material based on those manual groups as well. In this particular example, we're not, so this feature isn't available to us, but those are two options to consider as well. And so with that, before I jump into the next one, I believe we're going into reviewing student work. Yes. Were there any questions that I could address real quick?
Nolan, we have a question about how to utilize hashtags.
Cool. I can totally, that was actually one of the ones I was going to jump into. I was just going to do reviewing student work first. So
before you do that, will you open up, we had a quick question about what does it look like to download the documents with annotations. This is what that looks like. This is actually from today's course that we're in right now. It gives you the file, that document, that PDF, and if you scroll over each of the places with the annotations, you'll see the person that left it and what they said and when they did it. Thank you.
of course. Thank you for providing that link. I clicked it real quick. It's a good thing. Okay, so yes, Kyle, I will definitely jump into hashtagging, but I'm just going to take a couple minutes and do reviewing student work before we do. And so with that, let's talk about how to review all of your students' work. You have a couple of options to do that. The first being this student tab here. Right next to assignments. If we click this, you'll get your full roster of students listed here. And when you click into a particular student, let's do Lauren here, you'll have some options. You'll be able to look at the analytics for all of their assignments. And if you click that button, you'll be able to see their active reading time for each, their viewing time. This is basically the student activity report that you see for an individual assignment, but it shows each of this student's assignments and a full breakdown therein. So it's a personalized student activity report for all the students' assignments that you're currently looking at. So that's one way to review the student work. The other, for a more in-depth breakdown, would be to go to this drop-down menu here and pick a particular assignment. Let's find one where she's very active, this one here. And you'll be able to see the annotations that they created in that assignment. If there were responses or things like that, you'll be able to see all of that here, what page it was on, what score it received, if it got any upvotes or replies. That would be a way to go into an individual assignment that this student worked on and seeing all of their annotations in one place. And so you can do that for every student in your roster here. And that's more of a student-based approach. There's also the assignment-based approach of reviewing student work. And that can be done here by going to a particular assignment under the assignments tab and clicking the all comments button. And now this will allow you to see all of the annotations generated for that assignment, but you can refine your viewing to either a particular group or even further down to a particular student. And so that's another avenue to review student work. And again, both of these avenues we just discussed are from outside of the assignment. You can also navigate student work inside of the assignment. We can do that by opening up the assignment. And that can be done if you have all conversations selected here. You can come up here to this is typically where you have all comments selected so that you can view everything. But from this drop-down menu, you can refine that to only having your comments up for review, others' comments that you were mentioned in. But for the purposes of student work, you can search by an individual person or an individual student and an individual group. So let's say we only wanted to see group 3's annotations. We'd select that group, save changes, and now you can see, because we have all conversations selected, there's only one annotation submitted by group 3. But let's refine that further. Let's just go by a specific person. And so from our entire class roster, we'll go with Lauren again. Now we can see only their annotations and what page they were displayed on and all the information therein. So that's the avenue of reviewing student work from within the assignment. And so with that, before we jump into hashtagging, Kyle, was there a specific question about hashtagging before I hop into it?
The question was from Frederick, and he was just, he's used hashtagging, but he thinks that he hasn't done quite a good job of it. So maybe, what can instructors really do with hashtags?
So hashtagging is a great way to keep information kind of collected in one area. And these hashtags are cumulative. They're not just on a per assignment basis. So let's say we created a hashtag here, March 10th. I'm having a hard time. March 10th, 102. And we save that. And now let's say, see how it appeared here? That I went to my students and I said, every time you're referencing the March 10th Perusall 102, I want you to hashtag it, no matter what assignment you're in. Now, when the students go through and they're working and they're dropping that hashtag, they can come back and let's say that was an important topic point for the course. Anytime they come over here and click this hashtag, it's going to pull all of the information from every assignment that's linked to that hashtag into this section for your students to review. It's a great way to kind of have a bunch of information in one place. And this is what it looks like when one is in there. So you can see this is a hashtag interaction, and we can star it. We can view it in the context, so we can actually click it and it'll take us to the assignment that it was created in, or we can, copy it to a clipboard if we need to, or have it read aloud with our read aloud feature. And so that's what most of our instructors do to successfully utilize it, is they'll make it very hyper specific and have it be about an important topic that relates to something in the course because of the way the hashtags run through every assignment. So it's a way to cumulatively, that's a hard word to pronounce, cumulatively gather information through each assignment you create in Perusall. And they're also very manageable. You'll notice that we click this March 10th one. Let's say that wasn't one that necessarily worked out. It wasn't the right one. You want to kind of tweak it or utilize something better. You can remove that hashtag at any time by selecting it and getting rid of it. And then you also have the option here to just create a new one. And so I hope that answered your question, Frederick, but also gave a good explanation to everyone of how to effectively utilize these in Perusall, because they are very widely used and our instructors have found good success with them as far as information gathering. A good example would be an instructor who was teaching from the Odyssey, and he was using it to reference some theme, recurring theme. I can't remember exactly what, but he had like hashtag what that theme was. And every time a portion of the text related to it, their students would highlight, drop the hashtag, a brief explanation of why they believe that, and it would keep all of that information in one place every time they clicked into the hashtag. So that was a great utilization.
As a follow-up to that question, Frederick asks, Frederick can see how the hashtags are useful to instructors. Are they useful to students as well?
Oh yeah, so apologies for not being clear on that. The same principles apply because the students have access to the hashtags. It's great for them from a study perspective because it keeps it's like a group note-taking exercise. So if it's a particular topic of importance and all of the students' peers are gathering information through every assignment related to that topic, they're keeping it all in one place for everyone to see. So that's a good utilization for the students as well. It's like a cumulative notebook.
I think that's a great point, Nolan, and especially your example about the humanities instructor using it for Homer. I've seen an example of a philosophy instructor. They'll use the hashtag for important key words and concepts that kind of go across all their readings to kind of keep some aggregate data that the students can access easily.
Excellent point, Kyle. And with that actually brings us to 2 minutes to close, and we do want to be conscientious of everyone's time. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the screen here just for a moment. This was our final 102 of the season, and we just wanted, actually it's our final webinar period of the season. And so we just wanted to thank you all for joining us for this final one. Our webinars have definitely taken new form as we've learned and progressed throughout these series. And I just wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who came today, as well as a massive thank you to Justin and Kyle, who have helped make these webinars as wonderful as they are today. They've definitely grown a lot because of their hard work and dedication. But we are going to drop a quick poll before you all leave. If you could just take a moment to fill out, this is how we make these better. With each new series run that we do, we're going to take the information that you give back to us. We'll work that into new webinar series that we will build out for the summer. And then we're also working on a student-centered video. We don't have a lot of those right now, and we want to make some student-centered videos to help them get more familiar with the platform, but also have more navigation avenues besides knowledge-based articles. So any feedback that you could provide on that end that you think would be beneficial to your students would be fantastic. And as always, you can always reach out to our support staff at support@perusall.com if we didn't get to address all of your questions here today. And you'll either get Kyle or Justin or Maggie or occasionally myself when I have the bandwidth to hop in. I've been a little busy lately and among other things, but I do miss the support feed. We also have our FAQ articles that will help with anything you may need. And as you can see, I'm donning my very lovely Perusall attire. We do have our merch store. So if you are lonely and not with us during our webinar series breaks, you can always get a Perusall shirt and feel a part of the team when we're not together. And then finally, our Perusall Exchange. So our Perusall Exchange is a massive treasure trove of information. This is where all of our instructors from around the world have created their own kind of webinars, so to speak, of how they've effectively utilized Perusall with their students, different ways that they've set Perusall up to suit their pedagogical styles, different ways to promote student engagement, and all of that is available to you as a Perusall user in the Perusall Exchange, which can be found on our website, which we've linked here. Not only that, our Perusall Exchange 2022 is also getting ready to begin. So if you are interested in submitting an abstract and perhaps being a presenter, that's an option as well. And then you can also register to be an attendee and keep up with all the new events that are coming and make sure you're up on the information as it unfurls. And lastly, yes, today was recorded. We will be distributing as soon as possible. I know myself and Justin are going to hang out with Kyle here for a little bit to answer any questions, but again, big thank you to all of you who came for our final one. This has been fantastic and we absolutely loved having you. This has been a really fun series to do. We've had great engagement from people all around the world, especially someone who's here at 1:30 in the morning in India You are a hero. That is fantastic. And so we're very grateful for our perusers. You guys are fantastic, and we will revamp this series again to make it even better for you in the summer. And that was it. I'm off my soapbox. That was fun. Thank you for attending a TED Talk by Nolan Quallis. It's been a fantastic but
Yes, all the links will also be sent, Paula, like with the summary, all of that via email, the Q&A, everything will be sent.
all of that will be in it. Please allow about a 5 to 7 day turnaround on that, just because we take our time to write everything up correctly and to make sure the videos are edited as best as possible too. So it's about 5 to 7 days before that follow-up email comes in. And then, oh, Paula left a very nice in the Q&A. Thank you, Paula. Oh, we had a few people fill out. Wonderful. The poll. Thank you so much. It's always so helpful.
It is. Thank you.
I'll share those results with you, Justin, so you have those.
Oh, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, great.
And then, yeah, it looks like we don't have any more questions anywhere. So, okay. All right. So everyone who is remaining in the webinar, what I'm going to do is just manually remove everyone. Nothing personal. It's just so that we can get this recording closed out and downloaded as quickly as possible to get the recording process started. So again, thank you so much to everyone in attendance, and we will talk to you soon.